I'm Leanne Musser. I'm the college coordinator. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's program. It's the college search process for juniors and parents. I am delighted to see so many students. Welcome, juniors. I usually get to greet you in the beginning of the year because we usually had a group guidance for all of the juniors. But this year, our counselors have been meeting with you individually, so I haven't had an opportunity to introduce myself to you or the College Center to you as well. So I want you to know that I did do a video earlier in the year, and it's posted on the College Center website that kind of shows you all the resources that we have in the College Center. I also want to thank Candy Fay in the back here from LTTV, who's going to be videotaping this evening. So all of you can spend a Friday or Saturday night on Rewind and find out what you missed, or if your neighbors weren't able to come, perhaps you could, they'll be able to view it at that time. It's really hard to have any kind of event here that doesn't duplicate some other thing on the schedule. So we're very happy to have you. I'd like to take 1 minute to introduce our new division chair, Mr. Drew Eder.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Leanne, and thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to let Leanne get started with the program, but just want to let you guys know we did run out of packets. We had some information packets for you all. We're making copies now, so if you didn't get a packet, we'll have some on your way out. Just let us know. We'll be out there. But thank you all very much. But before I do hand it over, I just want to say one last thing. Leanne Musser has been a college counselor at Lyons Township High School for 16 years and has been in the field of school counseling and college counseling for almost 30 years. This is her final year before she retires and does wonderful things in retirement. And so Leanne personally was a mentor of mine when I was a college counselor and a school counselor. So it's really been a pleasure to be able to work with her here before she retires. So she's done incredible things for the community of Lyons Township High School and all the communities and families we serve. So if we could just recognize her quickly for her service to the district.
I am going to miss this as well, so thank you very much, both to Drew and to this wonderful community for supporting me all these years. As you mentioned, we have some handouts. We'll get some more to you, and I'll also have some of these printed up in the College Center, just as a quick review of them. The first page is just the top 30 colleges by number of applications in the last 5 years. So these are where our LT students have applied. Often people want to know where they're going, so I also have a complete list in the back of the handbook and in Naviance of not only where our students applied, but where they were accepted and where they eventually attended, because also often those numbers are quite different. So this is just a quick reference. You probably shouldn't be too surprised if you live in the neighborhood and drive around that the Big Ten happens to be in our top 10 to 15 every year. Our students love those big flags of the Big Ten. I feel that they come from a big school, and that's often a good place for them. Many start out looking at the Big Ten or large schools, as many juniors often do as well. And then as they get introduced to other schools, find that it may meet their needs a little bit better. Hopefully, all of you juniors have been meeting with the college reps that have been coming into LT. We've probably had well over 100 already. And the College Center has been open, sometimes with 2 and 3 visits during a period, for students to come out of class and meet with individual college reps. If you don't know how to get into a college visit, you sign up through Naviance. Your teacher is the one who excuses you from class, and you can come down to class for a visit. And you must sign up 24 hours in advance, so the teacher has enough time and you know what's going on in the class. But there are instructions on the College Center website, and we hope you take advantage of this opportunity, because we're down into the last 2-3 weeks. Juniors, as I said, I'm so happy to see you here. We don't get the opportunity to give a presentation kind of from start to finish of how to start this college process all at once. So I'm very happy to see you. And also, I've been receiving emails from you and your parents talking about how you are stressed, you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to go. And so we're always delighted that we present this program early enough in the junior year that you can start putting the pieces together so that by the end of this year, you will have developed a short list of colleges to which you will be applying in the fall. Right now, we are about 2 weeks out from the earliest deadlines for most colleges, which is November 1st. So you have about 40 days when you come into the school, 40 school days, coming in next year to get most of those applications done for early consideration. So we want to keep that in mind when we talk about the timeline. Your counselors, as I said, have been meeting with students individually, and so if you haven't been called down, you can anticipate that you will be receiving a call from your counselor for an appointment. And as I said, we want to familiarize you with all the resources that we have. So the College Center webpage is really important. If you go to the LT main webpage on the left, it says College and Career Center. You can click on that and see all kinds of resources. The PowerPoint that I'm using this evening is actually on that webpage. And this is also where we will post this video as soon as they have it edited. At the end of our program, the senior counselors will be here to answer questions. So Katie Kozlowski, Ann Strickland, Leo Torres, and Nicole Zaroli are all on hand, and we'll be taking questions from the audience as well. So this is a busy year. I'm not going to lie about that. People often think it's the senior year that's the busiest. And actually, the junior year is where you're going to do all the heavy lifting, all the work, all the research. But sometimes I think students stress themselves out just a little bit too much about it because they think, oh, there are so many colleges, how am I going to find the right one? And you should know that a student could be happy at dozens of different colleges. There are many similarities among types of schools, research schools versus liberal arts schools, et cetera. And so what we're going to be looking for is a fit for you. Not a fit for your neighbor, not a fit for your uncle or mom and dad or anybody. Your mom and dad are going to be in on the decision, but we want a school that's good for you. It's very similar to purchasing a house. You're going to decide, first of all, the neighborhood that you want to live in. Or that you think you want to live in. Often that changes. I had a daughter who bought a house this summer, and the neighborhood changed because as they looked at things like style and what the educational opportunities were, or the amenities in the neighborhood, or the size of the house, or the price of the house, that kind of changed. And as they went through the process, the ultimate decision changes. And I see that very often in students as well, that they start out thinking they only want this, and as they research schools, visit schools, talk to other people, find out what programs are offered, they often change their mind and end up in another place. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about this evening in terms of fit. So we're going to look at what factors also that a college is looking for in a student, and what is a student looking for in a college, and how do those two come together to make a fit? What is the timeline for getting all of this done? And of course, what resources are available? I gave you a handout, and hopefully some of you will have an extra one. You don't have to fill it out tonight. It has a lot more factors than what we're going to discuss tonight, but it's a place for you to start thinking about what you want in a college. So I'm going to ask you to do some reflection. You might say, well, how do I know what to look for? You might start by reflecting on what was your experience like here at LT. This is a large school, even though it's divided into two different buildings, so you're generally with 2,000 people, not 4,000. Students often think, I went to a large high school, I have to go to a large college, because that's what I want. I want that kind of big rah-rah feel. I think that the opportunities are greater, and so I think I want that. So size could be very important. So you should think, how did size work for me? Did I find this a little bit too big? Would I have been better off in a little bit smaller place, or do I like the fact that there are only 2,000 here because I get a little bit more attention from individual attention from the teachers? As far as location is concerned, most students come in junior year saying, oh, I'm thinking about Hawaii, California, somewhere warm. anywhere but Illinois. Parents say anywhere but my house. All kinds of ideas about geography, location. But seriously, you have to think about where you would like to be. Climate often comes into it. Some students love to be in Colorado because they love to look at the mountains, or they like Arizona desert, or grandpa and grandma live there, and so we've got a little support. Or we're seeing a lot of interest in our southern schools, something that we didn't see 10 years ago. Students didn't go south of Missouri for the most part. Now that they get to Orlando a lot, all of a sudden Florida is really a nice place to be. So location can play a big role in what would make you happy, what would be important to you. You're going to start looking at these sheets and just initially checking off things that you think you'd like. But we'd like you to then distill that down to what's really important to me. So right away, you can start out looking at Florida. You can start out looking at Hawaii. Then you have to think, how much would it cost me to fly to Hawaii a couple times a year? Because when I come home at Thanksgiving, or when I come home for winter break, or when I come home for spring break, am I going to have a lot of extra costs involved in flying back and forth? Or those wonderful Thanksgiving short weekends where we stay in the airport longer than we stay with our relatives. So location should also have several different choices. What if I stayed closer to home? So most people do start looking far away, but actually most students end up going within a 6-hour radius of their home. The major, a lot of students don't even know what they're going to major in yet. So that's your career interest, and you can start out looking broadly. Some of you may have very, very defined interests right from the start. Some of you may have no idea whatsoever. And so you want to look at what the opportunities are at a college and identify perhaps a program or two that you want to start looking at. Academic challenge. LT can be a very rigorous place. We offer lots of very rigorous honors and AP programs. Maybe that wasn't for you. So you have to think, am I going to look for a very rigorous school as well? Do I want to do that level of work and now compete with only people who might perhaps be in that high academic echelon? How important is the reputation of a school to you? Is it important that you have that flag flying, or is it more important that it really be a place where you found your people, your comfort zone, your opportunities, your research, your home? Athletics, how important are you? A lot of students who tell me that they want to go on the big campuses because they like to be part of the big football scene. I will also ask, do you go to the football games here? And very often the answer is no. I say, so why do you think that would be a better experience? So it really takes some reflection on your part in understanding how engaged you want to be. Or maybe you're not in, maybe you want to participate in those sports instead of watching them. So do they have club, intramural? How active are those? How engaged could you be in that particular athletic group? Residential life differs greatly on campuses. From totally residential campuses where people spend all 4 years on campus, or 90% or better do that, to students who are off campus in one semester and living in an urban environment, getting an apartment. So it can vary widely, and we'll get in a little more detail about that. The hard part for students, once they get the basics down of the location, the major, the academic major, all kinds of the couple of important factors, need to start digging a little bit deeper, and that's what we call the culture. And that's where really getting on the campus, especially for any long period of time, if you have that opportunity, gives you an idea of what is it like to live here, because that's what you really want to know. The people who are successful in college don't just find a good school. It doesn't turn them into something. They bring their personality and their interests and their goals, and they find a place where those are going to flourish. So you need to find your people. You need to find your niche. It doesn't matter if they've got the best research program on earth if you're not included, or you don't have the academics to get in, or the connections, or the program's too big. You have to really know where your fit is. So you want to find your people and figure out what it would be like for you to live there. There are several guidebooks that can help you with that by getting an idea of what the culture is like. The Princeton Review puts out a book that gives the students' point of view of what it's like. Sometimes you get some of that on Niche, niche.com, if any of you have gone online, or a book that will show you the narrative version of what goes on. But the best way to do that is really just get on campus and ask the right questions. So not what is it like to live here, how am I going to learn? What is the academic culture? I've been on campuses that are work hard, play hard campuses, where the people that live there love to study, and someone else might look at that and say, do you guys ever have any fun? University of Chicago, for instance, used to have the little logo on their t-shirts, University of Chicago, where fun comes to die. For some students, that is fun, for that kind of student. However, there are other students who say, no, I want a more social balance. I need an academic balance. And so you have to know exactly what kind of academic climate and culture you want. Also, you need to consider the calendar. Sometimes the calendar changes the academic culture. There are schools that are on quarters, like Northwestern. So that means you have midterms and finals 3 times a year instead of 2. Which means students often tell me that they plan their classes out by when the midterms and finals are offered, so they have enough time to study. So that academic pressure may be more prevalent on some campuses than other. What kind of academic support is on campus if I need help? I often say that we have so many resources for students here at LT that they never take advantage of. And our offices probably use less than it should be. Kids are reluctant to come in and get help. We have to kind of pull them in often or have special things to get them to come in and seek out help. But you need to be checking out the academic culture of the schools that you're looking at. Do they have peer tutoring? Do they offer tutoring in the writing center, in the math center? Are they offering tutoring in specialized areas, let's say calculus for engineering? Do you have to pay for tutoring, or is it included? So you want to know how to get those supports. And then what opportunities there are in internships, activities, study abroad, and those all vary widely. The prestige and selectivity of the school is often overplayed. There are about 30 schools that seems that most of the top students apply to. And so all that does is increase the selectivity of the school. It seems that some schools are very happy saying no, 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 or maybe even happier saying no than they are yes. So selectivity is going to be a matter of, is that really my right fit, not whether or not it's a good school. Selectivity often does not mean it is a better educational experience, and that's what we're really after here in a good fit. A lot of schools have unique opportunities that students don't even think to look at. Large public universities can be very active and fun, but often students think that sometimes they're not academic enough, and so they can get an honors program or an honors experience at a public university that would make that large university feel small. A lot of schools now, especially larger ones, offer living learning communities, so you can live in a dorm or residence that has a particular theme or is of a particular united area of interest. So it might be based on your major, an engineering campus, or Colorado has one where the students actually live in the dorms and some of the professors actually come and teach in those dorms as well. So and there are advantages to being in honors colleges in terms of being first to register for classes. There are consortiums that students often don't know about. A consortium is a group of schools where you can take courses at any of the schools that belong to that consortium. The Claremonts in California are probably the most popular consortium. They're actually side by side, and you can literally walk across the campuses to each of the different schools and take courses at each one. And they're very different, from engineering to a women's college to a liberal arts school to one that has a science program. Now, in the Northeast, there is Amherst, which is a usually ranked #1 or 2 liberal arts school in the country. which is also part of UMass. So Amherst is very small liberal arts. UMass is a large research university. Students at Amherst can take classes at UMass or at Smith, Mount Holyoke, which are women's colleges. So consortiums are very interesting opportunities. What is a co-op program? There are several schools that are co-ops, about less than 10, fewer than 10. One of them is Cincinnati. So a co-op school means you're going to go to the school and you're going to actually get a full-time job during at least one semester and possibly two. And the full-time jobs are not small kind of gopher internships. They're actual jobs where you work for a company and you get paid at a company rate. And so when you graduate, you actually have you have real world experience. And often students will do one or two co-ops. Many more campuses are offering first year abroad, or even offering you their first year of admission in one of their abroad campuses. Madrid is very popular, Singapore, Dubai. So if you would like to spend your first year abroad before you even get on campus, I don't mean a gap year, but it's part of the actual college's program, you can look for opportunities there. Exploratory programs are for students who don't know what they want to do. So Bradley, for instance, offers an exploratory program for students who want to look at a number of different majors because they're not sure. They try them out, and they still guarantee that you will graduate in your 4 years and not lose any time by not being decided. And then finally, some schools offer programs such as language immersion, where if you want the opportunity to truly learn a language, you can live in a language residence hall and only speak that language, and you have total immersion, sometimes for 6 weeks or a year. Or a semester, I'm sorry. Financial considerations. I always like to mention this because students look for schools before they think about money, and often apply to schools and get into schools before they really think about money, thinking it's somehow going to work out in the end. Parents, I want to say to you, please don't tell your student that if they get into X college, you'll find the money. I have never reached in a coat pocket in the closet and said, there's that $40,000 I needed. And most parents don't either. When they say find the money, they mean borrow the money, okay? And it often adds quite a bit of debt, and should be something talked about very, very carefully and planned well in advance so you know how much school costs, the college is going to cost you. I will say, going back more than 5 years ago, parents could only estimate how much the college would cost. Now, they're required to have net price calculators on their websites. So you can put in your GPA, you can put in your test score. Later on, if you know, you can anticipate what it used to be called the expected family contribution. This year it's going to be called the Student Aid Index. And that's basically a figure derived from your adjusted gross income. But you can figure out what your out-of-pocket costs are. And then you can start calculating your list, putting together that final list based not only on the schools that you'd like to get into, but also which ones are affordable. If you did not view our financial aid presentation in September, it's posted on the College Center website, and is very, very helpful in, especially junior year, planning for the costs that occur in the senior year. The average state school right now in Illinois is around $25,000 a year. Many private schools are easily $40,000 a year and up, and many of the Ivies and Ivy likes have cracked $70,000 a year. That's a lot of money, so we want you to make those choices carefully. Some of you will be filing a FAFSA next year, and that's explained in the video as well. But a FAFSA is an application for need-based aid. A CSS profile that some schools will require is for usually selective schools that use their own institutional funds to assist a student and will ask additional financial aid questions that are not on the federal methodology. So you're going to be looking for where you get merit awards, where you might get scholarships, and where you also might get tuition discounts if it's offered to out-of-state students. So that should all be part of your selection process. A lot to put together. Campus visits, as I said, are really important. Colleges, fortunately, are opening up their campuses again. They had been closed for a while, and all we were getting were kind of virtual tours. So if you can go to campus, we certainly want you to do so. We do allow you to be excused from LT to attend a campus visit as long as you come back with proof of the visit. It's handled through the AP's office as any other attendance absence would. So don't just look at the pictures, because the reality is a whole lot different. I suggest that students start nearby when they're looking at campuses. We have a lot of examples of college campuses right here. If you want to see what an Ivy-like institution is like, you can certainly go to University of Chicago. You could go to Northwestern. You can, and as a matter of fact, if you're applying to either of those and you don't visit, they will certainly wonder why you were this close and didn't bother to visit. So it's a good idea to get on the campus, get a tour, get your name on the books with the admissions people as well. You can also look at what a large private institution looks like. In Chicago, DePaul is the largest private Catholic college in the country, having both a downtown campus and a Lincoln Park campus, and a very large conservatory for music and theater. They're also very big in e-commerce for those that are now doing a lot of marketing online, and e-games and gaming design, which is very popular. So you can see those kinds of programs. We've got traditional liberal arts programs all over the place. If you want to know what a kind of a New England school would look like, go up to Lake Forest College up on the north side. Very much like your typical New England school. Don't start with your favorite schools. You actually get better at touring as you go. I generally get on 30 college campuses a year. I usually spend a good part of my summer, at least a couple of weeks, visiting campuses. It's kind of like camping for college nuts, I guess. But I'll see 2 to 3 colleges in a day over a period of a week. And I can tell you it's hard to keep track of things if you don't have. I actually take a tablet with me, take pictures, and take some notes, because one starts to kind of look just like the other one. If you're taking mom and dad with you on the tour, if you can do it, go on separate tours. First of all, they won't embarrass you with their questions. It seems like we're always embarrassing to our kids, right? But also, you'll find that the tour guides can be very different. Some can know nothing at all about your major or seem to know nothing about the school. Others seem to know everything, and actually it gives you something to talk about when you come back together. I wouldn't suggest seeing more than 2 schools in a day. As I did say, they start to meld together and you lose the differences. But you want to make sure that you go where the students are gathering. You might ask questions of people in the main dining areas, how they like the food. Does the weekend start on Thursday or Friday? That gives you a good idea of whether it's more of a party social school or more of a studious school. Those students that are still taking classes on Friday, because students get to schedule their classes, if they have a lot of Friday classes, you know you're probably in more of a studious school. Do attend the tour and the information sessions, because it's good for you to start asking deeper questions. The reason I say don't start with your favorite, you do get better at it, but also you can kind of go back later on and say, okay, I want to try this. I want to see what the dorms look like. I want to talk to students. I want to just not ask casual questions, but the questions that are going to be most important to me. So senior year, you're going to apply and revisit the schools even after you've applied for those that are on your list. So now we kind of move from what are you looking for to what is the school looking for, because this is where we're going to make our match. And they have objective things that they're going to look at. I will say this very, very strongly. Every school will tell you the most important thing to them is the transcript. They're going to look at your transcript. They're going to look at the coursework that you took. They're going to look at the rigor of the coursework and how well you did in those courses. It doesn't do you any good to enroll in an AP class and get a C or a D. It is not impressive to a school and certainly doesn't help your grade point average or your self-esteem. So make sure you're taking classes that are at the appropriate level, you're doing the best work that you can, and that the rigor of the curriculum should have an upward trend. They always track trends. And some students are just strong right from the start. They love academic work, they do well at it, and they continue along that way. And others start out maybe in mostly prep level classes, and they say, okay, I think I might move up to an Excel class, or I'm going to try an AP class. There should be an upward trend in both rigor and maintaining strong grades. You are going to be viewed not in relation to everyone across the country applying to the school, but in relation to other students here at LT. So with every single transcript that we send, we also send a school profile, which has a grid of all of our course offerings and the levels at which they're offered. And that way the schools can get a good idea of what opportunities were here for you and which ones did you take advantage of. They know our school pretty well. Our students apply to about 400 schools every single year. So they have a strong idea of our academic work, our offerings, and basically the performance level. Test scores are really in flux right now. It's a brand new landscape. Actually, we are going to have a Zoom meeting with Compass Test Prep, who does a lot of the canvassing and preparation for testing across the country, because many schools during COVID moved to test optional. So prior to COVID, there were about 200 schools that were test optional. There are now almost 2,000 schools that are test optional. So test optional means that you have the option to send in a test score or not. I've been trying to track the schools that our students have been applying to and finding out how many went test optional, and also if there was a significant difference in the acceptance rates between those that submitted a test score and those that did not. The one thing the test optional movement did do is make schools more selective, because what happened is students who had very good grade point averages but not great test scores now felt that there were a lot more schools within their range because they would not be penalized by a lower test score, so they sent in applications. All that did is add a lot more applications to a lot of schools that were already selective and drove their percentage of admittance down and just made them more selective and more difficult to get into. There are some schools that will not use the test optional or tell you they're test flexible or test preferred. That means that there's a significant difference between those that were admitted with a test score and without. So schools like Emory or Georgia Tech had very, very strong, much higher admit rates for students who submitted a test score than those that didn't. I can tell you the rule of thumb in test optional is that if you've got a high test score, you're probably sending it. If you don't, you're probably not. The ones that are really toughest are those in the middle who say, should I or shouldn't I? Because sometimes they're just hitting the edges of the acceptance rates for those schools. And then rank and grade distribution. We stopped ranking a number of years back, and that has benefited our students greatly. We do provide a grade distribution to the colleges. In other words, we'll tell them what our highest, our median, and our lowest GPA are for the class, but we do not give them any additional information. Because you can have a 3.2 GPA in this class and still not be in the top half of your class. So rank has definitely helped our students, and especially our middle students. More subjective factors. Students, I have a lot of seniors coming in now saying, what can I get involved in my senior year so that I can put it on my resume for college? And I have to say, you're a little late for that. Because schools aren't looking for a laundry list. We used to say they were looking for a well-rounded student, and students felt like they had to do it all. They had to be in clubs and activities and have leadership and be athletic and have musical talent. But actually, most colleges have been looking at students who are a little bit more pointed. In other words, they have spent a lot of time in one or two particular activities, engaged a lot more, developed leadership, took on more responsibility, and those are the kind of students that we have seen get accepted recently. So when you're looking for activities, they expect that you're going to start out freshman year trying a few things out, staying in some, dropping other activities, and that's also true of activities outside of the high school. You could be involved in church activities, community activities, volunteer organizations. But what they'd like to see you do is start to develop an interest. Maybe we call it a passion. Sometimes students aren't passionate. They just like to do something or prefer to do something. They get involved, and they start contributing more as time goes on. So similar to that upward trend that they like to see in grades, they like to see an increased trend in your engagement, involvement, and leadership in your clubs and activities. And leadership doesn't mean you have to be president of the club to be doing something. Often there are many committees, fundraisers, things that you get involved in within the individual club where you can demonstrate your own leadership ability or achievements. The essay is certainly the one place where the student gets to identify who he is and why he's a good fit for that school. And this is the hardest part for students. If there's any delay in getting out applications, it's because the student just can't get that essay written. I would suggest as starting juniors that you look over your freshman year, your sophomore year, your junior year, start asking yourself the bigger questions about what did I enjoy? What was really meaningful to me? How did this activity or this academic achievement or this exposure to some new area change me, grow me, make me have a different point of view, start having me look in another direction for a career interest, so that when you come to the point of having to write about yourself, you don't say, I don't know what to write. What is going to make the school happy? What does the school want to hear? And that's not what they want you to write about. They want to accept a person. You never want to be just a GPA and a test score. You want to be accepted as a person, and that's exactly what they're looking for. So many times, especially in highly selective schools, I have students who are looking for the formula. What do I need to do to get into this school? What do I need to be? And they don't want you to turn yourself into something that is a, I don't know, Harvard person or a Ohio State person. They want you to be who you are, know who you are, tell them who you are, be able to articulate that well in the essay, and then they understand whether or not this is a good fit, and you should understand whether or not it's a good fit. So the essay becomes one of the more important features of the application, especially in the more selective range. Now, there are lots of schools that still accept students based primarily on that GPA and test score. Our state system was developed to support people who were going into careers, and they're often very much looking at that GPA and test score and maybe a short personal statement of your interest in that particular career or major. But as the selectivity moves up, they want you to have a higher degree of reflection, and they want to know what you're going to contribute to their campus as well as what you're going to take away from their opportunities. And then letters of recommendation, which you'll get you'll develop those relationships in the junior year. It's likely that it's your junior year teachers who are going to be writing your letters of recommendation, so you want to be careful of your classwork and also your contribution in classwork, because those teachers are asked, what was your contribution within that particular class? Did you have intellectual curiosity? Were you a leader? Were you an active participant, or did you just kind of show up? Whether or not it's a fit is something only you can decide. So there isn't one school that's really, really great that I would say everyone should go here. What you need to do is put together all of the factors and make a decision for yourself. Selecting a major is often difficult for students. That a major is your area of interest where you'll take most of your coursework, and half of all students actually go into colleges undecided. Liberal arts schools don't have specific majors often, like business or nursing or accounting, because the idea of a liberal arts college, for instance, is to gather ideas from across the humanities and liberal arts for you to develop critical skills and thinking to go into further into a career and possibly into graduate school. So half of all students are undecided. Many will decide by the second year. There are some prescribed programs if you're going into nursing, engineering, accounting, where you have to kind of go from step A to step B in the program to do clinical work or to do to build on freshman level, building on to sophomore level, et cetera. Those are more prescribed courses, so you probably should know going into the school that you'd like to be in that major, but even there's still about a year or so where you have an opportunity to decide. Some schools are easier to change majors. For instance, if you're going to University of Illinois at Urbana, they are admitting by college. So you're applying to the College of Business if you want to be in business, not to admissions, right? So the business school will refer you. If you get into the College of Business and decide it wasn't for you, you really wanted to be in the College of Media and Communications, you have to apply to that college. So it's a little bit more difficult to move around in some of the bigger schools than it might be in a small liberal arts school where you say, oh, I think I want to be a biology major and a dance major. There's a little bit more flexibility, a little bit closer advising as well. Often I'm asked, about the difference between going to a large school and a small school. Half of all schools in the country are 3,000 or fewer students. And the other half are quite large. There are some medium schools, but only about 35 to 40 schools that are really in that medium 5,000 to 10,000 range. So if you go to a large research university, students tend to think there are a lot more opportunities, a lot more majors, a lot more offerings, and that they'll have a better opportunity being there. But it's kind of like going to a restaurant. If you go to a fine dining restaurant, the menu is very small, but you get really good service, and you usually get a fine dining experience. If you go to a large buffet, you have lots and lots of opportunities and offerings, but you have to get up out of your seat and go get them. So it goes back again to you. If you're not the kind of person that gets up out of your seat right now, seeks out help, seeks out that internship, looks for that professor who's going to help you, have someone who can support you, then it's very likely that you may do better in a middle or smaller college. It's not that they do less, they do it differently. So again, look for your people and look for where you think you can grow. In terms of undecided majors, there's no penalty in applying. If you're undecided, they don't mind. They often have students who do that. And even those who do decide that they want to be in particular major will change their mind. About 60% of those change their mind. I have one daughter who she went to U of I, changed her mind, and went to 3 different colleges within the university, still managed to graduate in 3.5 years, because I made her a deal that she could save me a lot of money if she graduated a semester early, and I'd give it back to her and she could go to Europe. So she did that instead. That is one tip, by the way. Take advantage of your community college for courses on the lower level. It opens up your schedule, especially if you have a heavy schedule in something like engineering. And you can also save a lot of money by graduating early. Most colleges do post-graduation rates, by the way, at 6 years, not 4 years. Just imagine how much more money that will account for to add another 2 years. Okay, so, hit the right button. So we want you to develop a college list by meeting with the representatives here, by researching, using the Naviance and other resources that we have, talking to the reps on campus, visiting, reading literature and information, and at the end of this, you should come up with a list, hopefully, of fewer than 10 schools. Now, we do have our share of students that apply to 20 and 25 schools. It gets very cumbersome for them and for us, because at the end, they end up having to make decisions. And also, it's very hard to know if you're a good fit in 25 different schools. And so often what they'll do is apply to the whole Big Ten, or most of the Big Ten. And I can tell you, Ohio State is not like Iowa. If you really visit the campus and look at their opportunities, go into their classrooms, the kind of people that go there, they're different. They are very different. And yet we'll have students who apply to just the Big Ten because they kind of group them all in one type of thought. But we would like you to select schools in 3 categories, or 2 to 3 categories. Most of them should be those that are what we call target schools. Target schools are where you've looked up the average GPA and perhaps test score of the students who were admitted last year. We call that the middle 50%, and every school publishes their middle 50%. And usually it's a range, so it might say that our average GPA here is a 3.6 unweighted, and our average ACT is a 26 to 30, and our average SAT is a 1110 to 1410. If you fit that range, then you have found a school that's a target school, or a school where you're likely to be admitted because you are the kind of average student of that school. You want most of your list to be those, because you want to get those letters that say yes, 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 yes. Many students apply to highly selective schools. That means if they had perfect ACT scores and very high GPAs, they still have a low likelihood of being admitted just because of the high selectivity of that school. If the school is admitting 5% of the applicants, your likelihood of getting admitted is lower, just by the sheer numbers. So you might have a few Reach schools on your list, but you don't want to have a whole bunch of Reach schools on your list because, again, it's not great getting letters saying no thank you. So you want to know where you're more likely to get in. Then we have a third range, which I call value schools. Some people call them safety schools. And these are schools where you know that you are above that average range, but they offer some value to you because your GPA or test scores and grades and rigor are higher than the average student who is admitted. You are more likely to get the honors program, the special opportunities, scholarships, merit awards. And so those are value schools to you. And generally one, what we call safety. I know I can get in here and I know I can pay for it. You need a financial safety school where you know that you're not going to end up with a number of schools and then not be able to afford any of them. And even though that might sound unlikely to you, every spring I have students in my office in March and April when they've received their award letters saying, I thought I was going to get a whole lot more money and I didn't apply to any schools that I could afford. I just applied to these other schools and didn't get the money. That's a tough place to be, because by then we're trying to scramble around and find some other schools that are going to be a good fit and where they're going to be happy and that they can afford. So you want to account for your family situation, and certainly you want this to be a collaboration between you and your student. So when are we going to do all this? This year you're going to be researching the colleges, and hopefully you're using Naviance as a great tool to do that, as well as the College Center. As I said, visit campuses, meet with the reps, and prepare for standardized testing. You do have a required state exam, the SAT. If you're in Illinois, you cannot graduate without taking it, and so we offer it to you free in April. I believe it's April 13th. But many students often take other standardized tests during the year, usually starting sometime around February. We also offer test prep here in school, as well as if anybody wants outside test prep, you can contact me. I can give you a couple of names as well. So this fall, you're going to be meeting with your individual counselors, attending the college visits, begin your on-campus visits. Make sure you're checking your credits for graduation. Of all the grades that are important to colleges, your junior grades are the most important. They will be the most recent. If you're applying in September, they will be looking at your first 6 semesters. So these grades this year are most important. What am I hearing from colleges this year? That last year was kind of a mess. And so they're going to be looking at grades very carefully this semester because our current seniors last year were, well, it depended on where you lived. Across the map, you could have been at home the whole time, Zooming. You could have had synchronous or asynchronous, but it was not your normal class setting. And so they found all different kinds of grades and grade patterns. And so this year they're saying they're scrutinizing those first semester grades. And it's not uncommon, especially for more selective schools, to who make decisions in April to ask for that 7th semester transcript in January to see how that went. So once you are accepted your senior year, you're not fully accepted until they receive the final transcript in the end of June, indicating that you've graduated, met your requirements, and maintained the same academic rigor and grades that you had when they accepted you. So the work starts in January. If you're looking at California colleges, those that are looking at the UC system, they don't count your freshman year or your senior year. They only look at your sophomore and junior grades for a grade point average. So what happens at the end of the year? You're going to develop this list in those categories. Perhaps you have taken standardized tests already. You may be retaking them. We offer college application workshops often that students can take advantage of either in the late spring or early summer and sometimes August. And then, of course, constant communication with parents. You're not on your own. We have lots of opportunities for you to get help and resources, not only through our online resources, but the College Center as well. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about when I say Naviance, Naviance is a database that we use for all our college and career information. And this is our College Center webpage that I've been mentioning. I'm going to start there. We have something called the College News and Scholarship Packet. If you haven't been at the College Center webpage, you've been missing out on it. But that's where we post open house events from college campuses, or we may have a college that's having a meeting somewhere in Oak Brook or downtown or Westchester or somewhere nearby, and you are invited to attend. And we post those in the College News and Scholarship Packet. Also, that's where we post all of our scholarships once they start coming in a little bit more. In the fall, they're generally related to colleges, but as we get to December, we'll have about almost 100 local scholarships. I can tell you most of those are offered to seniors who've already applied to colleges and know that they're going to attend college, because most of the scholarships are dependent on their attending those schools. So the website is a place to go for that packet, for the instructions on how to use Naviance, any financial aid information, this particular video. We have job postings. We've got about 50 jobs posted on our board in the office as well as online here. I have a section called College Info for juniors. As I get more and more information to share with you, I post that there as well, and any college application information for next year. And you can see I've got a little video there that gives you the video introduction to the College Center. So briefly, Naviance, what is it? It's the web-based resource. So this is where students will put in the colleges that they're applying to. They can look up colleges. They can do research on colleges and find out what their admission rates are, what they cost, what majors are offered, even have nice videos of the campus. It will track and send all their college applications and letters of recommendation next year. It's accessed right through the student's account. So once they go into their D204 account, it's a single sign-on. There is no username or password. We do not have parents who enter Naviance. They would have to use their students. We have a guest admit, but it doesn't show, it shows a limited amount of information. So here's what the main page looks like. As you can see up at the top, we have home, college, careers, about me, and planners. We have colleges I'm thinking about and applying to. We have a feature called Super Match. So when you're looking over the most important features that you want to look at, you can put in your major, a geographic location, and maybe the size. And Supermatch will give you an entire list of schools that matches that. You can add more criteria if you want to narrow it down, what they offer perhaps in athletics. And you can see right down here, it starts with 100% match and will work its way down. Scattergrams are in here. Students often ask, well, if I'm compared to other students from LT, what does that look like? So you can pull up a particular school. This one happens to be Northwestern University, which is why there's so many red X's, mean they didn't get in. You can see that our average student had almost a 1,500 SAT and over a 5.0 average for Northwestern. So the little red X's are denied, the little green check marks are accepted, and if the student has the student's information is in there, it'll show you and where you are in relation to that. Now, even though we have that average of 5.0 and almost 1,500, that is an average. There's still a range, not a wide range in this particular case, but often a wider range of acceptance from students. So don't look at just a particular GPA or test score to make a decision, since there is a range of scores, as well as a holistic review of all the things that they'll be looking at in your application, including your essay and your letters of recommendation. So colleges come to LT, I mentioned that. This is how you sign up. You pull up the list and you just register your name, and then you take that information to your teacher and she signs off on it. We also have a lot of articles and information in document resources. So you can pull up a lot of additional information that we provide. Also, there are going to be surveys. Sometimes we'll ask you to do a survey about yourself for a letter of recommendation for a counselor or teacher next year. Okay, I said I was going to try to do that in under an hour, and we are there.